This is a technical tip on how to create forms on the website. You can go first to ss.stgeorge.ca. Then after that, you log in with your credentials. Once you're in, go to the page you want to create the form under. In this case, I want to create a new form which will appear on a separate page under the forms and registration section. So I would go there, and then after that I would hit create. This will create a new page. Give the page a name. So in my case, I'll name it volunteer form. Um, there are two ways to add forms. One, you can go up to the plus button here and look for forms. However, there's an easier way to do it. So once you're in the page, you can just hit the squiggly bracket, and this will drop down a bunch of different options you can select from. So in this case, we'll select forms. Now forms, the destination here is important. You have to tell it where the data will go, so the destination for the data. And this is a database which should have been created beforehand. Now, unfortunately, databases can only be created by admin access. If you need the database created for a new form, just let me know, I'll create it for you. Once it's created, you can just enter it here. In this case, I have an October 19th, 2019 high school parents database. I'll select it here and I hit save. This will create this box that you see here. This is where the elements of the form will be entered. Um, so one thing that you would not want to do, you would want to design your form. What's in the form? In this case, because I want to create a form to collect parent volunteer information, I'll need the name of the volunteer, whether they're willing to drive the kids to the destination or from the destination. I want to find out how many passengers they can take in their car and whether they're willing to stay during the activity day to help us organize the kids. So let's get started. So first thing I want to collect in the form is the name of the parent. So I'll create, just type name and make it a heading, right, just to make it a little bit bigger. And then I want to add an element, an input field to collect the data. Again, I'll hit the squiggly brackets, and this time I'll go to the open macro browser. Then in the filter place, I'll just click forms, and this will show me all the different types of forms or different types of elements that I can add to the form. In this case, I want an input field. Now, an input field is a field that you can enter text in, you can enter a number in, you can enter whatever, something. And so I just want to get their name. So I'll select this, and then I'll have to give the name of the field. In this case, it will be just volunteer name. Now the label, again, you can see down here, displays a description of what that is. So the label is exactly what this thing is, right? It will appear on top or beside the field. So I'll call it again volunteer name. Then if you need to add any sort of validation, whether you can enter only numeric value or alpha, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or alphanumeric, A, B, C, and numbers, or an email. In this case, I want it to be alpha because it's just the name of a person. And I want it to be required. So that means they have to enter this field or else they can't submit the form. And everything else stay the same. Hit insert. Now we have the new field. Now the next piece of information I want to collect is the driving volunteers. Again, I'll make it a little bit bigger here. And then I want to I want to create a checklist of whether they will be able to drive to the destination or from the destination. So let's see what we can find. So again, hit the squiggly bracket. It will drop down the list. You go to open macro browsers, and then you filter on forms, and you'll see all the different elements again. So what do we want here? We want a checklist. So or a checkbox. So this right here looks like a good option. So it's a checkbox form. So I'll click it. Um, in this case, it's just driving. I'll call it driving. The group label will be driving, or I guess rides might be a better name for it, right? I'll paste it here as well. This description will appear underneath the field describing what kind of information this field is collecting. So in this case, I just want to say availability to give rides, and I want it to be required. And there are two options. I want it, the parent can either drive to the destination, right? And this is a value that will appear in the database, so I want just 2 is fine in this case. And then I'll enter another entry, and I will say from destination, from. If I have this checked, that means this option will be checked by default, but I don't want it checked by default, so I'll uncheck it. In this case, now you have 2 entries in your checkbox or checkbox group. You have one box will be to the destination and the other box from destination. And the parent can select one of them or both of them. And I'll save this. The next piece of information is I want to see how many passengers they can take. So I'll just create another entry here. Again, I'll hit the squiggly bracket. It will drop down the list. I'll hit open macro, filter on forms, and then I want the input field in this case, right? Because I just want to collect a number. I'll call it number of passengers. The label will be available seats. I guess I can just call it available seats as well. Description, let's say how many passengers can you take, excluding yourself and your child. Validation, so in this case I want it to be exactly a number, so I don't want any sort of letters in this field. It's a required field, and that's it, and you insert that one. The last thing I want to collect is whether they can stay to help during the activity day or not. So I'll call this section stay for observation, and then hit the squiggly bracket, select the open macros, filter on forms, and in this case I just want one checkbox to check whether they're able to stay or not. So again, I can use that form checkbox button group. So I'll enter this. Again, this one will be called observation. And the description I can add, can you assist at the location of the activity? I want this to be a required field, and the label will just be, or the entry will just be labeled yes. The value here is yes, and uncheck it by default, and that's it, and save. Now I'll make this bigger just to fit the rest of the form here. Now I have all the information I need from the parents. I have their name, I have whether they can drive to the destination or from the destination or to and from the destination. I have the number of passengers that they can take with them, and I have uh, the whether they're able to stay and help us during the activity day. And once you have the form completed, you hit publish, and voila, that's it. It's kind of a little bit longer than your normal technical tip, but there's more steps involved in here. Basically, now I can enter, for example, parent name here. I can say I can go to the destination, for example, available seats 5. If I try to enter K or whatever, it's not gonna accept it when I hit submit. And then can I stay? I'll say yes. And then once that's done, you can hit submit and it's done.